Hi, I'm Daniel, and before the episode starts, I want to briefly talk to you about the Garden Outreach Project, a WCF program focused on putting faith into action. Our mission is to inspire and support Christadelphians in North America to share Christ's love through outreach initiatives. This is done by facilitating national and local outreach activities, supplying resources, and providing funds to help brothers and sisters serve those in need. For example, in 2020, over 40 ecclesial groups participated in our Bags of Love initiative, which saw over 800 sleeping bags distributed to shelters and those without a home. If you, your ecclesia, or CYC want to learn more and get involved with our latest initiative, please visit our website at www.thegardenoutreach.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Garden Outreach for the latest news and encouragement. And now, here's the show.
Welcome back to A Little Faith. I'm Levi, and today we're continuing our series on getting to know some of the WCF directors. And this evening we have Brother Alan Ghent. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm doing well. And yourself, Levi?
Pretty good.
Good.
Trucking along. I've got the two girls now, 9-month-old and a 4-year-old, and we still aren't sleeping. So I'm looking forward to that phase of life when I'll be sleeping again.
Well, we currently have my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter living with us, and Juliana's nursery is just down the hall, so I can sympathize.
It's a beautiful and hard time of life, but I'm happy to chat with you. I sent you some of these questions ahead of time, and these are things that I don't know actually, even though we've known each other for a long time. So I guess as fairly quickly, where were you born? Where did you grow up, and what introduced you to Christadelphians?
I was born in Toronto in 1956. I grew up in the West End of Toronto and went to school there. My parents were both Christadelphians, and they were really instrumental in my spiritual growth and development. And it was simply a natural extension of my convictions that they instilled in me when I was young.
When were you baptized?
When I was 18, it was a unusual baptism in that it was a night of a tremendous hailstorm. There were golf ball sized hailstones, and one brother afterwards said, "You must be one of the sons of thunder." So I remember that to this day. I certainly hope it was a sign of encouragement and excitement as opposed to anything else.
What was the name of the ecclesia that you were baptized into at the time?
Uh, Ossington Avenue, and I still attend there, although we're no longer residing on Ossington Avenue. We've sold that facility and now have a building in North York, which is the northern outskirts of Toronto.
So, did you have like a youth group or a CYC at that time that you were in a part of, or?
We did, and we were blessed by some spiritual leadership. I think of Ann Duffield. I think of Tim Stevens. They were very kind in giving up their Friday evenings to mentor us. And then later on, we became sort of self sufficient and would run the programming ourselves. And there was a good number of us. There was perhaps 15 plus who would meet together, and we'd study and have recreation and informal fellowship. So that was really a benefit growing up. And I'm thankful that we had that sort of critical mass in our ecclesia to enjoy.
Yeah, I found that's similar to my story as well. There's when you can find that sense of belonging or community at that early age, it can be a really crucial way to for your mind to follow into what is the convictions that you find in the Bible. You can find it and share it with others immediately and share that companionship, that fellowship, I guess. When did you get introduced to WCF?
That occurred in the early 90s. WCF was holding a directors meeting in Toronto. I believe it was in 1993. I and several others were invited. It was at this juncture that Don Elliott was planning to step down, and they were in need of a secretary. So I was invited to assume that office for the board.
So you accepted that in 1993?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. He was stepping off, so I went back and checked the archives. So in 1994, I assumed the mantle of secretary.
Wow, I didn't know. So, and you've stayed on the board since then?
I have, and it's gone through quite an evolution over the years, over the decades.
Right.
Initially we were focused on providing a cassette library with recorded talks to the Brotherhood, and then that morphed into more advanced media. We were blessed with Steve Johnson's expertise, and he provided us the opportunity to offer videos. We have the faith around the world, God's family around the world, rather, and the introducing series. There was Dwight Kindred's I Once Was Blind. So we developed a library of video offerings, now CDs, and they went from videos to CDs, and now they're online. So that was an important element early on. And then we branched out with the addition of principally John Popel to our board, who introduced us to a worldwide fellowship and opportunities in the developing world. I might make mention of this juncture that we've been really blessed with very generous donors that have enabled us to do this work. Without them, we would be hamstrung. So their generosity and the generosity of ordinary brothers and sisters who have contributed to this work has been really immeasurable. And I take this opportunity to thank them. But with the resources available, then we were able to help in places like South Africa, provide funding for the Bible education centers there. We were able to provide white field workers, and then opportunities arose in Southeast Asia. We were able to participate in Cambodia and help support the dormitories there. That was sort of an interesting project. The students would come in from the farming communities and the provinces into Phnom Penh and would have their tuition covered, but they wouldn't have any money for living expenses. And in a city like Phnom Penh, they would either end up on the street or end up losing the opportunity to pursue their education. So living arrangements were provided in these dormitories, a boys and a girls dormitory, and it provided an incubator, if you will, for teaching the truth. And a number of those students, as they went through their years at university, ended up accepting the gospel, were baptized, and then returned to their communities to preach to their families. So opportunities like that were sort of novel from our perspective, but certainly with God's blessing bore fruit.
I had actually I had a call. My other call today, WCF related, was with the team from Cambodia. We're going to be doing a volunteer drive because they've essentially fully reopened, and they're looking for volunteers from North America or anywhere, and to spend at least 6 months there. And they said some of these numbers that I actually hadn't heard. I mean, I've been around now for a couple of years, but they said they think there's about 90 to 100 baptized, and 12 of which have moved abroad, which I thought that was kind of interesting. Met and married brothers and sisters from other countries and moved abroad, which is what it is. But the success of that program is really interesting. And one of the brothers described it that they have these learn English through the Bible classes, and he said it's really beautiful to see someone, they attend initially for essentially to learn English, and then the focus shifts as they spend more and more time with their teacher. And yes, some of the students stop attending, but they said it's neat to watch when the person has switched their focus. I thought that was a nice thing to imagine, that you go there week after week, and then the class naturally changes. I thought that was neat. It's definitely a neat program. I'm excited that we continue to support it.
And Vietnam is another success story. That's one that has to, for safety reasons, remain largely below the radar because our faith isn't recognized in Vietnam, and the current government there is concerned that religious groups may foment unrest. Certainly, that isn't applicable to us, but everybody sort of gets lumped together. And unless you're a recognized religion, you are subject to persecution. So the brother there, who was a boat person and ended up in Australia, returned. And over the past couple of decades, back in the 90s, he returned, brought the gospel back. And currently, there are 8 viable ecclesias and several hundred brothers and sisters. And that success hinges largely on utilizing indigenous white field workers. There's a dozen white field workers that every day go out and provide pastoral support to the brothers and sisters there, and spread the gospel. It's a young, generally a very young group of believers, but they're well grounded and very sincere in their service to the Lord Jesus Christ. So that is another example of providing funding and seeing the benefits accrue. It's not an area where we can go in and preach because we'd end up in jail in all likelihood, but the locals know how to navigate the system and are able to successfully spread the good news.
Right. Yeah, you brought that up to me at some point in the last few years when we've been working together, that the really beneficial programs are those that are led by residents of the country. So yeah, when we're supporting brothers and sisters that are from that same country, and that's the model I experienced in India when we went there. That's the model that we have in South Africa mostly, and Cambodia, and the Philippines, and Vietnam. Is the more we can lead with brothers and sisters that are permanent residents, the better.
Yes, I think that encourages self-reliance, an independence, and a necessity to spiritually mature and grow and assume that responsibility instead of simply deferring to, the Western brother who shows up maybe every 6 months or a year.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump back just a little bit. I thought it was interesting. You said you've seen a lot of changes through WCF. I feel like through your time sitting on the board, I feel like I've tried to explain that to people as well, that there's kind of been three eras that I've kind of known about that you've probably seen. And that is that 90s when video, kind of that, whatever the group was in the 90s, which I don't know what that was, which was about video production, and continuing with that when recorded classes are still valuable. When tapes are important because MP3 hasn't come out yet. And then the next era is kind of the Kyle Tucker, John Popel era. They launch all sorts of programs. Besides, yes, the international work's probably the biggest one. But Kyle also does that Thought for the Week through WCF, and they did
that's correct.
Teaching, and I think it felt like there was a focus on ecclesial health at that time. And then now as of late, we're in this group which is kind of led by Mark Dravenstad and Paul Elliott, which we've been much more active on the internet with our social media, with the podcasts like this, but keeping the heritage of our international projects, and I think a focus on faith development overall. What's it been like to see the changes, I guess?
it's difficult to teach an old dog new tricks. So the transition has been a challenge for me because I am simply not technically savvy. If I've got a computer problem, I rush out to my daughters. So I'm not on social media. I probably back in the dark ages from the point of view of many millennials or Gen Zers. The focus of returning to our roots, I think, is bringing some dividends. This was sort of the original focus of WCF from its inception, that they wanted to undertake projects that were really beyond the resources or capabilities of individual ecclesias and provide the necessary materials to the brotherhood at large. We have over the years faced some resistance simply because of our composition. We have brothers on the board historically who wear both central and unamended fellowships, and that had been a barrier for some to accept what we would offer. And it continues in some circles to be a challenge, although I think we're gaining a greater acceptance in both communities. The efforts to cultivate faith through the online Bible school, through Faith Launch, and so forth, have received sort of an international acceptance. And I think that that is helping us at home in North America to be seen as, a vital contributor to the spiritual health of our community, and as a organization that can encourage the fortification of faith.
Nice. So you do see kind of a through line. You talked about Vietnam and Cambodia as being important projects. Are there any other projects that are important to you right now, or that you're particularly interested in, I guess?
Yes, as one of I think you used the term the two sides of the house, and I have been largely involved in the work outside North America in the mission field, although not in person, certainly through oversight. The in-house stuff, the North American projects, I am now becoming a little more involved in. We've got one initiative which we have described as invigorating ecclesias in a post-pandemic world, and our sort of operating group is Rise Up and Build. And what we're trying to do is to encourage ecclesias to sort of fortify themselves, to become more resilient, to look beyond the confines of their four walls and engage their community more. And we've got several projects that we're starting to roll out. And I think you're going to be speaking with Jessica next time round. I don't want to steal all her thunder, but we're looking at providing sort of spiritual muscle instead of physical mass to a number of ecclesias that may face declining numbers. We're hoping to put up a bulletin board of ecclesial Zoom contacts and provide a resource so that small ecclesias can either share in the offerings of larger ecclesias so that they have opportunity to similarly grow spiritually. Um, we're providing Zoom subscriptions if a group of Bible students wants to meet together and hold a Bible class, and they either don't have the resources or the technical know-how to do that. We're going to support that activity. And we've got a couple of projects that we're working on to engage our community. The Great Commission was to go out into all the world and preach the gospel. And we tend to be a little more insular and expect them to come to us. So what we're going to try and do is encourage our brothers and sisters to go out into the community, We've got two projects that we're sort of piloting now. One is a little free library. You may have seen those around where you install, a little library box, and we're hoping to do that shortly at our ecclesia, and also there's going to be one installed in Richmond at the chapel. And this is going to sort of serve as a pilot, so we'll learn by our mistakes and offer biblically accurate and engaging children's books on Bible stories and the like, and see if that can gain some traction in the community. We
Mhm.
may also expand that to provide other offerings, but our initial focus is on a younger demographic. We're also looking at doing what we're calling a prayer walk, in which we go out, we pray for the different households on the street in the community, and we leave a door hanger which indicates that we've prayed for this household, and there's contact information and opportunity for them in turn to email any specific prayer requests they may have to us. And we'd have a prayer team in place
Oh,
to
I love
offer
that.
prayer,
I love that.
prayer on their behalf, and show them that we are engaged and willing to help. This is a little different from the garden project, which is purely or primarily humanitarian.
Right.
What we want to do is encourage the teach as well as the touch.
Right. Nice. Do you have like a launch time?
Well, we were talking with Seth, and he, as the master marketer, has suggested we roll out these several projects as one program, and I think that's going to launch in January.
Oh, wonderful. I'm excited about that program. Thank you, Alan, for your time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for serving as interviewer, and give my love to your family.